Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 210 of the Hammer Territory podcast. I am your host, Brad Rowland, coming to you on a Thursday afternoon, and normally I am joined by a co-host, I'd say most often, by Scott Coleman. But for the intro, I am here by myself. I will have a guest joining me momentarily. It is Gaurav Vedak of Battery Power at PGA Prospects for a really fun chat, actually, about the Braves farm system that was recorded last night. So the vibe's a little bit different than it would have been today, but Gaurav is awesome. That is still relevant right now. It's a well-deserved, well-needed check-in on the minor league system, and you want to stay tuned for that. But the Big League Club has to take the lead on this podcast. It probably was going to have something of a topper to the show with about what happened today, no matter what. But it will be a longer, more detailed, more frustrated, more maddened discussion here at the top of the show, because of the all-time meltdown, catastrophe, whatever word you want to use, it's probably appropriate for what happened to the Braves on Thursday afternoon. And entering today, before today, Atlanta had already lost 10 of the last 13 games, including the last 3 games in a row. Vibes were pretty rough around the Braves already. If you are a recurring listener to the show, you already know how we feel about this. If you're a new listener, please subscribe to our podcast. We cover the Braves 12 months a year. We're always here on the podcast. We're on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, etc. Just search Hammer Territory, leave ratings and reviews. We definitely appreciate you listening and watching the podcast always. But if you're new, I recommend listening to the shows from Sunday night, Tuesday night, and Wednesday night with myself and Scott and Sean Coleman, Stephen Tolbert, talking about what's been maddening for the Braves, struggling, being unable to score runs. It's been a fluctuation between trying to be level-headed and give context like we want to do as a podcast, but also the frustration and the borderline existential crisis stuff of what's going on with the Braves in recent days. But all of that was trumped by what happened today. So Atlanta looked to be on the way to a badly needed win on Thursday afternoon. Now, I would have come on the show and said, hey, it's one game, but winning is better than losing, essentially, would have been my take if the Braves had just had a harmless end to the game. But that did not happen. They were up, if you missed this somehow, they were up 10-4 in the ninth. In fact, it was 10-4 with 1 out in the ninth inning. So all the Braves had to do was get 2 outs before they allowed at least 6 runs. And they failed to do that with their bullpen. It's just an unbelievable set of events. I'll talk about this probably again later in this discussion, but the Braves, according to the people at ESPN Analytics, which are not infallible, but they have a win probability kind of graphic, play-by-play, pitch-by-pitch, and they were giving the Braves a 99.9% chance to win this game. And that isn't 100, and we saw that on Thursday afternoon. So, before the meltdown, and the complete meltdown that it was, I would have told you, and this is still true now, that the offense actually had a good day. The theme of our podcast, I would say overall, the last several weeks basically has been the offense has not been good enough this year. We all know that. The pitching staff, today notwithstanding, has been good enough. It hasn't been elite, but it's been good enough a lot of the season. The offense decided to have a good game today. They scored 10 runs. Everyone in the lineup had at least a hit. They had 3 home runs. They had 5 doubles. And again, they led by 6. And while, again, it is true the pitching has been better this season than the offense by a lot, that was not the case today. Now, I will say they got through 7 innings, allowing 3 runs in this game. So the trio of Holmes, Bummer, and De Los Santos are innocent on this one, as are the guys like Pierce Johnson, Dylan Lee, etc., who did not pitch at all today. Pierce has been really good this season, all that stuff. I do know some fans like Scott Blewett. Number one, the jokes write themselves today about what happened here. But also, he was in the role today that he's probably supposed to be in. I know we often get calls for him to be a high leverage, but that's ERA-based stuff. He has a 4.81 FIP coming into today. And I think he's probably a back end of the bullpen, like not one of your better guys level of reliever. That was on display today. And then, of course, we'll get to Iglesias in a moment. So Blewett allows a solo home run in the 8th. No problem. Still a big lead. He starts 9th inning. That's also still fine. The Braves were, again, up by 6. So you want to try to save the bullpen a little bit, especially with a long trip to San Francisco happening on basically today, going into Friday. All fine. And again, 99.9% win probability after Blewett gets the first out of the 9th. But then he allows a home run, a walk, a home run, and a walk to the next 4 batters. So you've now allowed 3 runs. You have a runner on, and look, the Braves are still in control of the game. I want to stop right here and say Scott Blewett was bad in this game. It was a disaster. But when he left the mound, the Braves were still big favorites. They were no longer 99% favorites by any means, but they were still in control of the game. There was one batter on base, one runner on base, and a 3-run lead when you're bringing in the guy that you are paying to be your 9th inning closer or late inning reliever, however you want to put that. Raisel Iglesias. He's had a terrible season. We know that already, but it got worse today. Just to kind of give the snapshot of what transpired when Iglesias came in, I'm sure you would have watched it. I won't recount every pitch, but immediately a double, an infield single, a pop out, then a single, a double, and it's 11-10. It's that simple. Now, if you want to give any level of grace, and I know that nobody does, and by the way, that kind of includes me at this point in time. If I want to stay on brand, I'll say I would point out the Diamondbacks got quite literally 4 hits in the 9th inning that were nowhere near the strike zone, like hilariously ridiculous hits, including the infield single that kept their run alive. Because look, if they get it out there, they probably end the game, all those things. I'm also not going to stay on brand in the way that I normally would here. That's all I'm going to say about that. It was unlucky to some degree. It was variance, but Iglesias has not earned benefit of the doubt this season. That's the simple version of why it's like hard to go down that rabbit hole to say, whoa, he did this. And I know we do that. We like to give context. I believe strongly in the process elements of baseball. It's a random game, yes, but you do get stuff from data and all that stuff. But Raisel Iglesias now has a 6.75 ERA and a 5.66 FIP this season. He has been bad, flat out bad. Unlucky a little, sure, if you want to say that, whatever, still bad. And today was the actual rock bottom of what transpired here. Again, double, single, pop up, single, 2-run double, and it is in the blink of an eye, 11-10. It's like watching a slow motion car crash in a movie or something like that. It's like, oh, as soon as the second home run happens against Blewett, I was like pit in stomach, like, oh, they're not going to do this, are they? And they did it. The Braves actually blew a 10-4 lead with 2 outs remaining. And by the way, when they got the out that they actually got after that, they were still up 10-8. And then Iglesias allows the single, and it's 10-9. So they had 2 more chances to get an out, and they just could not get another out. Everyone is making the rock bottom references. It happened on the broadcast. It happened in the post-game show. It happened on Twitter for people. I totally understand that. I would probably do the same. The hope would be it doesn't get worse than this, because look, this is one of the worst losses that I can recall during this run for the Braves in the last 7 years. Now, obviously, there are playoff defeats that are more crippling, more painful, because they're playoff losses. Everything is magnitude, all that stuff. Expectations are baked in. But as far as like vibes, given where they are right now in the standings, given that this is their 4th loss in a row, 11 of the last 14, and to do this on top of everything else when you actually did score some runs today, and the way it unfolded, it's really an all-time level meltdown. Like, it's one of the worst losses you'll ever see in a regular season context. So I don't even know what to say. Like, it doesn't mean the season's over, but I don't blame anybody for feeling more that way by the day. I said on this show with Scott Coleman, my normal co-host, on Sunday, we both said independently, without kind of running it by each other, that we had never felt worse about the team this season than we did at that moment on Sunday evening. Well, guess what, folks? The Braves are 0-3 since then, with 2 unbelievably maddening losses. Like, Wednesday's loss looks quaint now compared to Thursday, but Wednesday, they blew 2 golden opportunities to score runs and maybe win a game that they probably should have won on Wednesday. And that was a bad loss, but it wasn't this. This is way worse than that. You're up 10-4 with 2 outs to go, and you can't hold the lead. So, yeah, I mean, the season, I am very process-based, level-headed. People that listen to my other work about other teams, and I cover the Hawks, and people know that I feel this way. I mean, I'm out of things to say at this moment in time. It's an absolutely hideous result. The Braves, as I'm speaking to you right now, are 2 games behind the Nationals in the standings, with 101 games left in the season. So the optimism, if you want to find it, and I don't think people want to find it right now, would be that the Braves are a positive run differential team and there's 100 games left in the season. But I'm looking at the current wild card standings right now, and the Braves would have to pass 6 teams to even make the third wild card spot, and it's June 5th. So hideous vibes. Everyone's maddened. I mean, today it speaks for itself, quite honestly. I mean, there are varying levels of degree of freak out you can have. I understand that, but I would hope that people as a whole cannot agree on much. I would hope that people can agree this is one of the worst losses you'll ever see, and we'll start talking about it now. So from here, the Braves are going to San Francisco and then Milwaukee for a 2-series road trip with a lot of travel. The first game is late night on Friday against the Giants. Both the Giants and Brewers have been pretty good this year. Not great teams, but still very good teams, better than the Braves have been so far this year. So some real challenges on the road. And we'll be covering it as we always do. So if you made it this far, number one, please stay tuned for Gaurav. It's an awesome conversation I feel bad that that's going on this episode now, but it was the way the schedule broke. I wanted to share it with you. And obviously that's maybe a little bit better vibe than the rest of this, but we'll be covering it all. We don't go away. So please subscribe, tell your friends. And before I bring in Gaurav, talk about the system in a second, it is first time for a player spotlight segment brought to you by Arena Club. All right, I'll dive into some more specifics in a second, but I want to start by saying that as of this recording in early June, Chris Sale has been the best player on the Braves roster this season. He doesn't always lead in all of the wins above replacement stats. I know Matt Olson does in Baseball Reference, for instance, but I will say Sale's been the best player on the team on the whole. Obviously, Acuna on a per-game basis, perhaps, but Chris Sale has been tremendous, and he is the guy right now, if I were to guess, who's the most confident player that I could project to make the All-Star team. When the entire league comes to Atlanta in about a month for the All-Star game, that player would be Chris Sale. And as we all know by now, I think pitching has not been the biggest problem for the Braves this year. It's actually been pretty okay or better on the whole. And after a slow start, that was at least partly due to bad luck, I thought, with some BABIP stuff, etc. Chris Sale has been unbelievably good in the recent past. In the last 7 starts, he's thrown 45 and a third innings, with 60 strikeouts to only 14 walks. He has a 1.39 ERA over that sample size and a FIP about 2.4. So he has been absolutely lights out in those 7 outings, just dominant, and even more ridiculous even with the last couple of starts for Chris Sale. He may not win the Cy Young again this year. It would be awesome, of course, if he does keep this up and maybe get some run at the top of the league and through that lens, but he has been utterly awesome again. And even when he doesn't get run support, I mean, even in a game like there was earlier this week where the Braves lost, still give them a chance to win. And honestly, most guys pitching on a night like Wednesday, the Braves would have not had a chance to win. But Sale has been tremendous, and he is our Arena Club spotlight player this week. Also, we have a new slab pack to rip, and you can watch that with us on YouTube right now from our friends at Arena Club. So here we go with that. And ultimately, we are going to pull Roman Anthony from the Boston Red Sox, the outfield prospect, arguably the number 1 prospect in all of baseball right now. 21-year-old outfielder, just a tremendously talented guy, looks very ready for the big leagues. There's a big debate happening right now as to whether he should be up already in Boston, and a big name, so a very nice pull for us and a very valuable pull for us. I have to say, Roman Anthony is a big name. I know it's not a Brave, but if you also want to, our friends at Arena Club have a buyback program to where you might be able to get the card of someone from Atlanta's roster as well, or in addition to Roman Anthony. And of course, Arena Club is a fantastic partner for us. And right now, you can get 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/foul and use code FOUL. That is arenaclub.com/foul, code FOUL for 20% off your first purchase. I'm joined again by Gaurav. And look, it's not a great time for the Major League Club, as you and I are talking, to say the least. I would have wanted to have you on anyway. This is not only because the team is struggling. I want to be very clear about that. You've been on the show before. Hopefully you'll be on the show again after this. But maybe not coincidental, I suppose. Like, people were maybe clamoring for stuff, etc. I am too, honestly. Not that we're punting. I'm not punting. At least I would say I'm not punting on the season. That'll be separate. I'm not going to make you talk about the Major League Club right now. Unless you just desperately want to. It's painful, so we don't have to do that on the show. But I appreciate you being here as always.
Oh, definitely happy to be on. Happy to be with the number one Hawks hater and homer
Hater and Homer.
simultaneously.
Yeah,
So
that's
thrilled to
right.
be with you, Brad. And more importantly, I'm thrilled that the Braves are in a rain delay, so we don't have to really even try and pay attention to that team.
Yeah, we're talking Wednesday night in the midst of a rain delay. This is going to run on Thursday, so there will be a podcast between now and then that you will hopefully have heard from Sean and Steven, all those things. But hopefully nothing will be out of date. It probably shouldn't be. None of the big guns I don't think are pitching tonight for the system. We're in good shape. At any rate, you were on the show back in February, and I got a feeling that you were not super low on the system. Like, not that anyone is saying this is an incredible system right now, but we talked about some guys that you were optimistic about, etc. Some of the national reports have always been a little bit more mixed. I would say pretty low on the Braves coming into the season. Now, I know, like, it's only been like 2 months of baseball, but I have to ask you broadly before we talk about some players in the farm right now. How are you feeling about the system? Is it looking better? Is it looking worse? Like your overall like vibe check on the minor leagues for the Braves right now?
Vibe check is good. To say it frankly, this system is pretty big, pretty improved from previous years. It's not in the heyday when you had Acuna and Ozzy and them in there, and it's just you wanted to watch every single day. But at the same time, we're seeing a lot more quality play across each level. The AAA team, Gwinnett Stripers, not really too many prominent prospects outside of a couple of pitching prospects. But then when you look down, especially Rome, Augusta, and then especially the FCL and the Dominican Summer League that just started this year, there have been quite or this week rather, not this year. You're seeing a lot higher quality of play, and it's not just the pitching prospects; it's the positional prospects, something that we've all been waiting on for quite some time. With all of the graduations of Riley, of Ozzy, and them, and what we're seeing is while it's kind of light at the top of the organization, we're seeing a lot more depth accumulating throughout. You have your normal new wave of pitchers lighting it up, like your Brett Sears, your Luke Sinar, that we see every single year. Player pitchers coming out of nowhere, not nowhere, but really taking that aggressive step forward. Uh, but what we're seeing, particularly this year, as opposed to previous years, we're seeing a new wave of position players really come into their own. We're seeing John Heel really put together quality at bat after quality at bat throughout each game. We're seeing, it's not just he's having a good 2 weeks, he's having a good month. And we're seeing adjustments throughout. I just said John Heel, Ambior's Tavares. He's putting together more and more quality at bats. While that was never his problem, you're seeing him being a little more aggressive, which was his biggest flag. He often was his approach was so advanced that he knew the strike zone and he wasn't going to swing at something, even if it was a good pitch, because it wasn't his pitch. We're seeing him be more aggressive, and as a result, his batting average, his OPS have gone up. Uh, David McCabe, he's on a bit of a low. He's struggled a bit the past couple of weeks, but he's really starting to this season, particularly, put it together, show himself. He's hitting for average. He's hitting for menial power, but he's getting on base like David McCabe can. Where we've seen most of the season, he's had like a 400 OBP. So it's outside of him, Isaiah Drake, especially in the past couple of weeks, and Brad, I implore you to take a look at his baseball reference page of the last 2 weeks. If you need a small snippet, you're seeing him really have extremely good quality at bats, and that's something that's always been a flag. He was super raw when drafted, and you never knew what you were going to get from him. But you're really seeing the work day in and day out. The 2024 15th round draft pick Owen Carey has really taken to storm this year. He's provided at the age of 18. He hasn't played. He's from New Hampshire. You don't get quality baseball that often,
Yeah.
and to have someone come in at 18 years of age and put together an advanced approach, being able to recognize breaking pitches, not striking out too often, that's something that's huge. And then on a lower level, Nick Montgomery has provided, he's completely a wild card. When he was drafted, we just knew he had big power, but we're seeing him make adjustments throughout the season, and while the finished result isn't quite there, he's still going to be hanging off in my personal top 30, despite, like a 500 OPS, because you can see those improvements. Then you have Eric Hartman, who has shown off his versatility for Augusta. He's played second, he's played right field, he's put together really impressive power from that position as well. And then, a former kind of big bonus international guy is Carlos Montverde, and he struggled a ton in Augusta this year. Got sent down to the FCL already, where he got some prime one-on-one coaching, and we're seeing again a better adjust. You're seeing better at bats from him moving forward. So, and then when you're able to, on top of that, add in a quality arm like Cedric Day, what was it, Cedric Day Grand Prix, like he had Tommy John, he sat all of 2024, 2023. He was everyone was talking about him because of what he was proving he could do. He was a bit raw, but he was putting just absolutely incredible arsenal. He came back this year. He's lit up the FCL. He got moved up to Rome. And what did he do in his debut? 5-inning pitch, 0 hits, 2 walks. That happened in the first inning, 9 strikeouts. So you're seeing a lot more depth accumulating. You're seeing a rise of positional prospects. While it is on the lower end, in terms of age, their ceilings are still high. And they're players that you can really think about and project over the next few years. It's going to be kind of this way for at least one more year, I would say, before we start seeing those positional prospects start heading towards AA. And, I think probably 2 more years before we see impactful positional depth. But in terms of where this organization was last year and years before, I had a hard time coming up with my top 30. I
Yeah.
put together a list 2 weeks back. It's not due until July because I know I'm going to be changing it. So it's a really good place for the Braves to be in right now. And especially the past year and a half, we're seeing a lot of higher end talent that they're took wild cards on to take chances. But the player development has been obscene. It's been fantastic. And honestly, it's making me a lot more invigorated about watching minor league baseball on a day-to-day basis.
No, that makes perfect sense, honestly. And look, I always admit I'll do it again now. Like, this is not my strength. You watch a ton more prospects to guys. This is why you're on the show. I'm not an expert on this. Neither is Scott. Neither is Steven. Neither is Sean. But that kind of goes with what I've been reading. Number one, from you and your colleagues at Battery Power, and also listening to your podcast, all these things. But I got a little way today. I didn't tell you this ahead of time. We got a question today to the Hammer Territory account that was basically like, "Hey, what's up with all the position players in the system?" Because I think people are probably, again, not intentionally, but like, hey, thinking about the future more right now because the Major League team's not doing very well. And look, a lot of the more prominent, for lack of a better term, famous prospects in the system are either pitchers or they're honestly the only 2 position players that were like near the top of the preseason list were Drake Baldwin, who obviously has graduated and we all know him now, and then Nacho Alvarez has been hurt. And almost everybody else in like top 5s that I saw were pitchers. And top 10s, like, were very pitcher heavy, and guys that we know, names we know, from Waldrep to Caminiti to, Owen Murphy, all the guys that we'll talk about. And, I've read stuff, but also like, it's encouraging to me to hear what you said about them being in the lower levels. I would always encourage people, like, I know Gwinnett's like the closest thing. You probably don't want to watch if you have room for one watching experience and prospects, it probably shouldn't be Gwinnett. I tell myself that too, like, because Gwinnett, I grew up in Gwinnett County. Like, Gwinnett's like my down the street team. But if you're looking for prospect viewing, that's probably not the one in the system to watch. But no, I'm intrigued by that, and I think people are wondering about position players because pitching's volatile. We all know that. Famously, this is a Braves team that started the rebuild looking for pitching and then ended up with a bunch of position players. It's just very interesting how things work. And pitching's kind of always been more volatile and always will be more volatile. So having that kind of next wave, hopefully, of position players is pretty exciting, it seems like.
Although, yeah, right now, June 4th, I have 10 positional prospects in my top 30. Now, it could change.
Yeah.
But 10 as opposed to, I think, maybe 3 and in years past. And, not to tease too much, but everything I've heard about Diego Torrens down in the Dominican Summer League, season just started on Monday, but from what I've heard in the off season, like, he's someone that we really, really, really want to watch closely.
Not to make you give away all of the list that's going to come out at some point this summer. I know you enough to know you probably have like a guy or 2 that you love on the position player side. Is there a guy that you're falling in love with, maybe more than everybody else is? Perhaps it could be the trending guy too. That's totally fine. But not to bring up his name, and we'll talk about it maybe later. I know you were like the Smith Shaver guy this spring, and that was actually looking really good quietly until what happened. But do you have like a guy that you're loving, or maybe 2 guys that you're loving, or no? It's fine if you don't.
Like positional prospects?
Yeah. While we're here.
It's
okay if you don't. It's fine.
I will say I do want to gas up Ambioris a little bit. you look at the box score, you look at his stats, and maybe they don't jump out at the page at you. But we are seeing him start to develop more of that game power. He's got good raw power for short. He's got really good raw power at short, but we're seeing him start to translate that into game power. We're seeing him being a tad bit more aggressive. If you go through a lot more of his hits itself have come on like the first and third pitches, somewhere around there. And as a result, he's becoming this like really intriguing positional prospects in that when Garrett and I and he's Braves MILB on Twitter. When Garrett and I were talking about him just last week, one player that first really stood out to us in terms of like a comparison was Chris Taylor from the Dodgers. And we looked at his advanced stats when he was in the minors, and they are honestly, they're pretty similar. And when it comes to Tavares, he is an elite defender at both second and short. So when you add in plus defense at those two positions, and then a player that's able to hit the ball, maybe a like 250 to 260 clip, won't be walking a ton. He'll walk about, actually, no, I'm going to take that back. He'll walk like 8%, 8 to 10%, but he'll strike out a ton. But also now he's developing that power. Like that is a top end shortstop. If we're talking Major League Baseball. And so like you look at the numbers right now and you're like, 750 OPS, that doesn't really show me anything. Don't always just look at the numbers. Like seriously, you guys gotta go in and watch them play it, watch them at bats. Who cares? They can hit a home run, it doesn't matter. But if they're laying off breaking pitches, if they're able to recognize breaking pitches, if they're able to stop their swinging, if they're able to do zone recognition, like these are the biggest things. Numbers don't matter that much. And while they are the highest indicator of how good a player is, it's just when you're that much younger, as we'll use Tavares in this example, we'll just continue to use him. He's had 3 seasons cut short with injury. He hasn't had a lot of game reps. So being able to make those adjustments and showing that kind of adjustments that quickly, like that speaks a lot to him about what he does during the game, what he does outside of the game. So he's one that I'm probably a little more high on than other people, and then one that's like really, really easy because I've been talking a lot to some international scouts, Diego Torrens. Like everything I've heard about him at 16 years old, can I call myself a dumbass on the show?
Sure.
At 16, I was
you just did, so it's fine.
At 16, I was a dumbass driving to Walmart after practice. Sure. He is showing up before in games. He's getting in work. He's talking to coaches. He's talking to other players. And every single time you hear what coaches have to say about him, like you're talking about quality at bats, recognizing breaking pitches, something that you don't do at 16. You at 16, you see a fastball and you hit it. And that pretty much makes you a premium top prospect, right? So him doing that at that young is like a serious green flag, to the point that right now I'm like, I honestly can't wait for him to come stateside, because I think next year he might be, top 3 for me.
And yeah, if people don't know who he is, he was the guy, I think he got like $2.5 million in the international. He was the biggest pool guy they got this last class. Is that correct? I could be wrong because I'm bad at this stuff, but I think that's
you got it.
He was the one guy I could probably name from the international class, if we're being 100% honest. So no, that's exciting that he's looking the part as was hearing that he's looking the part as the guy who was the big ticket acquisition in the international class. I do want to ask about some pitchers, and we'll get to that in just a second. But first, we need a word from our partners.
By now, you know about Arena Club. Buy, sell, trade, open up slab packs to get a card that you don't think you could get usually, but the Grails will tell you that, for example, there's an Aaron Judge rookie card in this week's slab packs, so make sure you check those out.
No doubt. Those are what you want, the Grails. Mm-hmm. Aaron Judge Grail is awesome, graded, traded if you want, tell you how much it's worth, whatever you want to do. And I'm a big Michael Jordan fan with my 23 shirt on. There's a Michael Jordan Grail in there that I'm looking forward to try to get.
20% off your first slab pack or card purchase at arenaclub.com/foul. Use code foul.
All right, we can dive back in. I'm not trying to do this to tease you or make you relive this again, but you were the Smith-Shawver guy in the spring. It looked awesome. I was encouraged by that. Obviously, we hope he gets back soon, quickly, because I know you were in on him, and doesn't mean you wouldn't be now. He's going to be hurt for a while, but he'll be back. Was that what you thought you were going to see from AJ Smith-Shawver until he went down? Yeah. Was that what you were expecting? Because you were obviously, again, you were high on him on this show and other places.
I was definitely high on him. I think we have still seen a small glimpse of what he can do. He still gets really excited during games and he can get super frustrated. And then you start seeing him overthrow pitches and everything's going glove side. And then it just becomes repeating. So like he still has some work that he can do to just kind of just remember who he is and how freaking good he is and how talented he is and just trust his stuff. No, I still think the sky is the limit for him and everything I've been able to interact with his parents on social media.
Yeah.
I know what kind of family they have. They're going to do everything they can to make sure he's 100% right physically and mentally. And honestly, I'm not even remotely worried. You think about someone that has uh, stormed onto the scene this year, right? And everyone was talking about, what are his rookie of the year odds? And
Yeah.
to have an injury like that is absolutely devastating, especially after last year he had the oblique issue and injuries start to mount and frustration mounts and then you don't know what's going to happen, but I think he's got the right head on his shoulders. I think he'll just put in the time and we'll see. I still think the sky's the limit for him.
And I know you know this, but like it's not good. Obviously, no one's saying it's good, but it's not a death sentence. Like it's an elbow. A lot of guys. I mean, you might not even know the percentage. I don't, but like a lot of pitching prospects, pitchers in general,
Mhm.
have to have this injury at some point. It just tends to happen. Guys,
Human bodies aren't supposed to do
right?
it.
Guys blow out, and he's super young. He's 22 years old. I'm encouraged by what I saw, and hopefully in a year we'll talk about him again. And all systems firing there. Look, it's kind of a transition point, but between that injury and, of course, Reynaldo Lopez at the major league level still being out for a while longer, we've been talking recently on our show about like how thin rotation is. If anything else happens to anybody, and that includes Bryce Elder, who wasn't even supposed to be there, all these things, and we're getting questions about like, okay, what happens if you get another injury? Like, who will be the next man up? What's the state of like if they have to throw some guys on the major league club? And that's not all about what minor league prospect scouting is about. It's about future stuff too. But in the short term, if they are competing, again, I guess that's an if now, which is wild to say out loud. But if they are competing the rest of the season, and it could be bullpen names. Like, is there anybody that you like in the higher levels of the system that, like, not to be Schwellenbach level, but if they have to have the call this year, that they just need depth or need arms of the bullpen, who's on your list? It's obviously Waldrop's been up before. He's probably the most prominent, famous name of these guys. But if the Braves have to dip into the minors, who are you kind of highlighting for that?
When it comes to pitching, the Braves have done a great job of just acquiring a large amount of arms that have that, potential. If we're talking straight bullpen, you have someone like Domingo Gonzalez, who is four seam slider, kick change. The main issue with him and during the beginning of the season was he kept throwing his fastball a little bit too high or not too high, but it had too much movement on it, which is crazy to think.
Yeah.
But it was sinking down back into the zone, and they've been working on making it a little bit flatter. And as a result, he started to take off this season. He's a candidate for the bullpen. Roldy Munoz, who's also on the 40-man roster.
Yep.
We're seeing an uptick in command for him. He's four seam, two seam, slider, changeup. His biggest thing right now is keeping the ball in that upper third as well. That's like the main. Let me just go ahead and preface this by saying pretty much everyone I'm talking about the main issue right now has been working on that upper third, which is a really difficult thing to do, being able to attack hitters up high and get the ball by them. So that he's also working on that. You have someone like Jhancarlos Lara, who hit 103 on the radar gun yesterday.
Woo.
His biggest issue has always been command, but we're seeing a small uptick in command there. I really want to see him be able to throw that slider more away from right-handed hitters. Right now he's trying to throw it a little too far in, and as a result he starts to work a little faster, actually not faster, but he loses the mechanics a little bit, and his time to home, which is really weird, changes quite a bit when he gets a little anxious. So that's something that they're working on to be cognizant of. Hayden Harris, everyone's talking about his ERA, what he's doing over in Columbus. He's got that insane four-seam fastball that comes in at 91, 92, but it's got that vertical approach angle that makes it have a 45% whiff rate. His biggest concern has been that slider splitter. It's starting to get better. He's starting to keep batters more honest, so he's another person that could be of interest in the bullpen. Dylan Dodd is another one that reinvented himself with the cutter.
Yeah.
That cutter has helped him tremendously. He's able to throw it all parts of the plate, so he's another person that could, You want to see him. He's got starting experience. I would prefer to see him in the bullpen because he's found success there. I think it's paramount to just keep that going. If we need a starter, you have someone like Blake Burkhalter, who is obviously he's just a few years removed from college. That cutter is living up to exactly what we expected. That is a pure plus pitch. He's working on a kick change too. That's the new big wave, like that kick change, and he's using that grip now, and it's becoming successful for him. He's another option in the rotation. I got two more names for you. Bullpen, going back to bullpen, you got Ellison Joseph down in Columbus, 93, 97 with his fastball. His big thing has been his slider shape. That's showing massive improvement over the past couple of weeks. So another person that could find himself in Atlanta over the next couple of months. And then lastly is a complete long shot, but we've seen the Braves that when they find a player that they like and that's on their list, they will do whatever they can. If they show the slightest inclination that they can succeed, they'll push him up. And that name is Didier Fuentes at 19. Again,
yeah.
He's 19. Like let's say I don't see it happening, but he's 19. He has shown okay. Fastball 92 to 97. Slider 78, 83, and then his splitter 85, 80. So those differentials in pitch types, differentials in pitch velocity. His biggest thing is, can he get that ball high in the upper third? The past couple of weeks he has. So he's able to command 3 pitches with really good command to all parts of the zone. That's not something you see a pitcher do, period. You really don't see it in a 19-year-old. And that's why his stock has absolutely skyrocketed. That's why the Braves are so aggressive with him and moving up to Columbus.
Yeah.
He still has got work to do, but like in that oh no scenario, like don't be too surprised that he's obviously a big, he's made a name for himself in the organization and someone that the front office is watching. So like don't be too surprised if something like that were to happen, but like I don't really expect it.
Yeah, it's actually funny. I had Hayden Harris on my list to ask you about because he's 26 years old and he's a double A. He's put up these great numbers and it looks great. And guys like you are, it's not just numbers. Like again, I have to box score stout scum because I'm not watching these guys like you are, which is that's why I raised my hand and say that. But I was like, whoa, this guy's got some stuff going on. And then you have a 19-year-old on the same team, like, and these 7 years apart, it couldn't be more different. And that's part of the fun of baseball in a lot of ways. But that was on my list, and man, like you said, it seems far-fetched that a 19-year-old would be there, but wasn't he like a top 15 guy coming into the season, even like as far as your system is concerned? Maybe I was.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So he's a real prospect, the 19-year-old Fuentes. So interesting to say the least. I have to ask you about Waldrep because he's the guy people know and the guy that we've seen. The numbers are not pretty this year. Tons of walks. Kind of the same concerns on the box score that we had in the past, but you've actually watched him more than I have. Is he anywhere close? Like could he be in the mix if they need him, or are they still trying to work some stuff out? I know there was obviously some overhauling to do with him, but this first round picks who especially were big names, like people like, where's this guy? They're looking at their watch, like, all right, where's Waldrep? What's going on?
I am like absolutely thrilled to say something positive about him because I feel like I've been like so mean, and I don't want to be, right? Like player evaluation and player projection is really hard to do, and you don't want to be like, nah, this guy sucks, right? But like you can take those few games at the start of the season and just like literally throw them away. He has completely overhauled his mechanics. What he's done is he's lowered his leg lift. It used to come all the way up towards his chin, sorry. Now he keeps it more towards his waist. When that's happened, when he finishes his delivery, he's squared towards the plate. What it was before is he used to be falling off the mound towards the first base side. Now he's squared towards the plate. And what that's resulted in is a lot better command in his fastball. What that has done for him is the past year or two, hitters have been able to not even have to worry about his fastball. That thing was going to go here and here and here and here. They sit slitter, they sit slider, and they're able to adjust to the fastball. With him being able to command that pitch and being able to at least locate it, in the upper thirds and the lower thirds, hitters now have to be cognizant of 95. As a result, that slider is now seemingly a lot slower. That splitter is a lot more dynamic. We're seeing him go from 5 to 6 whiffs a game towards 18 to 20 a game. And while I don't think he's like quite there because he can still speed up just a little bit, especially later in the games or when someone gets on, you're seeing a pitcher like really take stock in who he is and evolve right in front of your eyes. And it's honestly really freaking cool to watch because like it's not easy. Hey, this is
Yeah.
what you've been doing your entire life. We're gonna change it and you're just gonna have to deal with it. And like it speaks to him, his character too, to be able to like, all right, I need to make these changes, and he's able to do it in a season during games. And it's not something that they worked on before the season. This is something that they saw on like week 4 and were like, hey, let's make that change right now. He had, I think it was like 2 side sessions with the abbreviated windup, and he put into a game, and now it's part of who he is. And as a result, we're seeing again more his whiff rate's gone up. He'll still struggle. He still gives up runs a little more, like 3 to 4 a game. I don't care. Like him being able to repeat this and show and like just prove that he is worthy of his draft slot and that he's not just some like flash in the pan. That's really exciting. And he went from someone that I had towards the back half of my 20, which thinks like absolutely bananas to even think about.
Yeah.
That's not a thing anymore. I really am a big fan of his adjustments that he's made. And while he might not have that, ace upside that so many people want, I think he's now a major league pitcher, which is not something I had thought of him last year.
Well, and yeah, I mean, there's always been the thought too, because guys, especially because he debuted already at the major league level, people thought that he was closer than he is. That's just natural. I mean, I think if you're going from, I'll put myself in that category of like, if you're a mostly a major league watcher and this first round pick guy, you know the name of, debuts in 24, like you're thinking, hey, he might be back soon. You know what I mean? When he goes back down, you're assuming he's going to be back soon. And I'm glad to hear that optimism because I'm not trying to put you in a bad spot to be negative. We don't have to be negative on this podcast, but it's good. It's good to be we're allowed to be positive sometimes on the show. I have to ask you, this is kind of, you probably already answered this to some degree, but I was going to ask you, like, guys who have changed their standing in your mind over the last 2 months. Maybe it's Waldrep. I mean, you just talked about that. But, like, it's only been 2 months. I understand how small of a sample size that actually is, but it's almost – that sounds crazy, and maybe you can correct me. I feel like 2 months in the minors is worth more than 2 months in the majors in some respects.
Yeah.
Like, you can kind of learn more. But even if I'm wrong about that, like, who's changed your mind? Like, is there an example of that or two? And honestly, it could be negative if you wanted it to be too, but I was thinking positive. But hey, if it's somebody that's like, hey, that you're worried about, feel free to share that as well.
I think Hurston Waldrep is obviously at the top of that list because he's made himself back into like a starting pitching prospect. First, I thought he was going to be more of a reliever that relies on high velocity splitter, but like now he's a pitcher, and that's exciting to see. One player, I wouldn't say that I was like low on them, but they were just really raw, and you didn't know, like you really just didn't know if he was going to hit or miss, and that was Isaiah Drake, and like he was drafted as just a complete wild card. We don't need pure athlete, does great arm, amazing speed, one of the fastest players I've ever watched in my life, amazing speed. But we're like, could he hit? Could he do any of this? Like we don't know, and the amount of change I've seen in him in one season has been like, okay, no, like not only is he a legitimate baseball prospect, like he might turn himself into one of the best positional prospects for the Braves. And it's really early. Again, he's still super early in his development. I think he's 19 or maybe 20 at right now. But like even then, like he's pretty new to baseball, new to this level of coaching, new to like this level of dedication. And he's taken massive jumps forward. And honestly, I've been, I have been wildly impressed. I thought he's someone that you would pop up on lists, when he's like 22 or 23, things start to click. But now you're seeing a player that like, okay, maybe this is the Braves got something. You're seeing adjustments day in and day out, which is crazy, especially at his age. Another player, like I already talked positively about him, but John Hill is another one where like you saw the double plus speed, you saw the great arm, but he's looking like he can stay at short. He's looking like he can recognize breaking pitches. He has a developing hit tool. He's got great power for short. Now your mind begins to wonder, like, what kind of upside does he have? And like coming into this year, those two players complete wild cards, and to being able to like talk about, all right, what's their high end? Like it's actually starting to get really exciting. It's really cool to see players like that evolve right in front of you. And like, it's not something you see at the very start of the season, but you see developing as they get more and more playing time, as they work more and more with their coaches. I have to say the Augusta staff, like whatever they got, Ruben Gotay, they got, I think his name is Garrett Wilkinson. Those guys are cooking with fire, and it's important. I just want to see these core coaches stay in this organization, because you're seeing a very quick turnaround in terms of player progression and player development. I would say the Braves struggled with this the past few years. The past season and a half is completely different, and it's exciting. Like, you don't know what's going to happen to these players. Like, now players on the fringe, on the outside, like a Junior Garcia, like, let's get him to Augusta, let's get him with those coaches, let's see what actually can happen to them. So like, I would say those two are, I think, have helped the most with their stock. Ones that haven't, I'm not necessarily down on Lucas Braun, but he had a great 2024, and right now he's just having command with all of his pitches. Like, it's going to happen. That's what pitching is hard, so it's going to happen. And then the other person is Luis Guanipa. Like, unfortunately for him, he broke his hand. He got hit in the wrist by a fastball, and like, you can't, like, there's nothing you can do about that.
Right.
But as a result, he coming off a down year, he's losing so much time in his development cycle, and like, it's hard when a prospect that comes in with that much punch. He's supposed to be great hit tool, premier athlete, staying in center, and now his stock takes a hit, and now he's out with an injury for a long time. How is he going to respond? How are you going to come back from a hand injury too? Like, as a positional prospect, it's right. So difficult, hand and wrist. So like, it's tough to say. Like, I'm not like, oh, he's off my top 30 or anything like that, but I used to hope that he would be in the top 2, top 3. I don't see him there anymore, and he's going to unfortunately have to show like a lot more to be able to earn that back, because being able to come back from that kind of injury is going to be very difficult.
Yeah, it's so interesting, and I remember not that we're about to do this again. I'm not saying that, but I remember during the rebuild, like, spending a lot higher percentage of my time following minor league stuff for obvious reasons. Like, we're just talking about it more all the time. And I'm trying to get back into it more. Like, we joked about it earlier, but I do cover basketball. I do other things. And it's like, I have to find time to watch some of these guys that I'm intrigued by. I have to adopt the prospect too. At times in the past, I've kind of maybe tongue in cheek, but like, I've had like my guy in the system that I was like funny about, but also loved. Like, I was the Tukey guy back in the day. I loved Tukey.
Yeah.
It didn't work out for me, unfortunately. Although he's still kicking around. He's around, but it didn't work out for me. At some point, I'm gonna have to get pick your brain about who my guy should be, because I have to like adopt someone, and I'm not smart enough to know who it's gonna be. So it's like, and
just do what I do.
Go ahead.
Just do what I did. My guy this year, Owen Carey. Watch him.
Okay.
Dude, you have too much going on. Just watch his at bat. Look at what he does. Look at his pitch recognition. Look how he hits for really good power at his age. Like, you'll be extremely happy.
All right. Oh, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, but I don't want to get away without asking this question, because of, again, how thin it is. I know we asked this question kind of before. If I tell you that Bryce Elder gets a blister and he has to miss 2 weeks, and the Braves need a starting pitcher, who would you want in the entire minor league system to start those 2 or 3 games in like a month? Like, knowing that this could happen next week. I'm not saying it's going to happen. Is there anybody? I mean, it could be a boring guy too. It could be somebody in AAA that's not good. Whatever it is, who would you want to see? Both like in your soul. Okay. In your soul, and also with your head. You can give me 2 answers if you want to. Like, who would excite you, and who would you actually start? You know what I mean?
In my soul, it's going to be Fuentes or Richie. Richie with the command, Fuentes with pure arm talent.
Okay.
Those are my soul.
Yeah, I mean, Richie's a guy that has been on the radar for a long time. I think he's 21, might be 22, something like that. I mean, a real guy. He's in Columbus right now. Like, that's a realistic name. I know Burkhalter is like the one that I always hear as like the polished guy, but he's also older. Is he 24, 25? Like, he's kind of the
college, 23, played at Auburn, and really, like, it's been. I really didn't think he was a starting pitching prospect, and then he's shown his secondary has taken a massive step forward. I think he's obviously a candidate for that role, but again, he's not on the 40-man, so that goes a little against him. Yeah. If I had to choose one that's already on the 40-man, that's not Bryce Elder, I'd probably go Davis Daniels.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I was going to ask you, because he's not, the word prospect is probably not even. He's 27, about
Yeah, he's not a prospect. He's a pitcher.
But he's in the minor
though.
leagues.
He's like a pitcher. Yeah,
He's in the minor leagues. He was eligible for this. He's in the minor leagues. He's on a 40-man. That's actually good. That's actually a good point. And he's a guy that I have seen pitch, which is more than I could say for a lot of guys. We discussed today. Okay, that qualified. I was looking at the minor league. Not the minor league. I was looking at the 40-man roster. Yeah, I mean, you got Michael Peterson, Nathan Wild. Yeah, there are not that many exciting minor league names.
Nathan Wiles and Davis Daniels, I think, are going to be the top two candidates because
like the 8th and 9th starters.
Yeah, they both can survive in the majors, right? Like, there's no doubt about it. But like, are they going to inspire you? Are they going to make you like want to watch, like turn on the TV? Maybe not so much. Yeah. But like 5 innings pitched, 3 runs.
Are they the okay? This is gonna sound funny. Are they the 2025 version of Alan Winans? Is that the comp for those?
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Like, might see them start a couple games, but not excite anybody, and hopefully get some outs, and that's fine. Okay, I just wanted to gauge that because again, I'm not trying to wish that on anybody, but I think there's a pretty decent chance that someone's gonna have to make a start at some point.
Would not be surprised.
Hopefully Lopez comes back, but there's a lot of uncertainty there. We don't. Yeah, no more jinxing. I'm going to stop talking about this now. But it's a concern that I have. And look, to end this on a high note, he's no longer really a prospect. But Drake Baldwin looks freaking awesome, man. And I want to make sure we can talk about that for a second because you were extolling the virtues of Drake Baldwin in February when we talked. That wasn't a huge surprise. He was the number one guy. But man, I have, and this is kind of maybe goes against prospect. There's always a little bit of a tinge of like, I got to see it with almost anybody.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
I'm just like, I play the percentages. It's not like a good, it's just, I'm a skeptic until I actually see it. And Baldwin, I was buying it. And you mentioned the quality of at bats earlier. It's about more than just the numbers. His numbers look awesome. For me, like even the first 2 weeks that he came up, you're watching every plate appearance with a little bit more emphasis than you might normally. And he's like 1 for 16, and people are like, "What's wrong with him?" I'm like, "Are you watching this guy? He looks like he looks like an absolute pro." And not that it was like a huge smart thing that a lot of us said it, but it was like, guys, this is not I'm not concerned about Drake Baldwin. Of course, now he's going nuclear. Anything surprise you about Drake? I mean, obviously we're all excited, but does he look even better than we thought he might look so far? He looks awesome.
So I would say, I mean, yeah, he's definitely looked better than I could have hoped. I knew what he was capable of. You don't really get that many positional prospects like that. The last one I can think of, and it's like, okay, Ronald as a prospect, like up here, right? Like, I listened to him one at bat his first year, and I was like, holy crap! Like, no, just the way the ball hit his bat, like the way. Yeah, everything was just different.
The way it sounds. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And he's up there. And so like Drake, like he was up here for me. He did everything right. He knew how to hit. He knew how to approach each at bat. He knew how to call a game. He knew how to frame he knew how to frame. Like at that age with that amount of experience, you could tell he was going to be a success. I thought floor was major league catcher for him,
which is impressive.
I did not realize his stealing was going to be potential rookie. Well, he could. I totally saw him potentially winning rookie of the year, but like 950, 970 OPS. Like, no, I didn't see that. I thought he was just going to be a really, really good hitter, and especially a really good catching hitter. But to this degree, not quite. I wouldn't have surprised me if he evolved into this. But this early, like, no.
We had to get to Drake because it's just such an awesome story. And
absolutely.
Look, and there are some guys, and I won't name names, there are some guys who come up and they get hot, and there's a little bit of concern for whatever reason. Like, and occasionally they fix it, occasionally they don't, they drop off, whatever. I haven't talked to anybody that's like worried about anything with Drake. He may not be this. I'm not saying he's going to always be like all-star level, which is what he's playing at right now. That might not be his baseline. It might be his baseline for the record, but we don't know that yet after a half season. But I don't have any concern at all now that he's just going to be bad. Like there's pretty much, that's just gone. Which for me, by June 4th of your rookie year, for me to be like not at all worried about that is like a pretty big statement because I worry about everything. I'm a worrier.
No, even
I'm
like
not worried.
thinking something like that, even thinking something like that is absolutely crazy. But like now I'm like, oh, okay, what's his worst season going to be? Like a 750 OPS? Like, oh no,
Which
like a really
and
above average catcher.
I was gonna say, a catcher, that's like awesome. I always say this, and it's still true. Like the baseline of catcher is lower than people think that it is.
Absolutely,
If you
absolutely.
can hit at all a catcher, like you're feeling good. And the Braves currently have maybe the best catching duo in the league. It's nice
To
to have.
talk about, I'm gonna to take. Sorry, last thing.
No,
To
go ahead.
take what people are talking about on Twitter and have a catching prospect, like people are talking about Drake playing DH to get his bat in. Like
It's
it's crazy to think
as a
about.
catcher, as a rookie catcher. You're right. Or playing left field. I mean, it's
I
a
haven't
testament
even
to
said that.
Baldwin. Of course. So have I. We have on the show. But no, it actually is worth taking a half step back and saying, look, it is very unusual for a rookie catcher to be getting that. And yeah, part of it is that the Braves have a left field problem. We all understand that.
Mhm,
But it's also because Drake looks freaking awesome to the point where the bat would
mhm.
play somewhere else. Like most catching prospects, the bat's not going to be like awesome at another position. There are good hitting catchers and good hitters, and they're not always the same thing. He seems to be a
That's a
good
great way of
hitter.
putting it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's just a good hitter, period. And it's a
He's a good
testament.
hitter that plays catcher.
Correct. Well, hey, Gordon, if you want to add anything else about anybody else, feel free. If not, I appreciate you being here, and please plug all your stuff because we kind of did it already, but please feel free to share where people can find you. It's masterful. I follow all the stuff, and I try to learn little bits and pieces from you and Garrett and others. But where can people find
No,
you?
I appreciate that, Brad. Yeah, you can find me on Twitter or X at GVDAC. I write over at Battery Power. You can find me there. I think it's like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for my work there. And then if you're interested in specifically Braves minor league development, you can follow my podcast at Peach State Prospects.
People should be
Peach
doing
State
that.
Pros on Twitter.
Peach State Pros on Twitter. I am a subscriber. Do I retain all the information? No, but I do listen to it. It goes in my ears. Hopefully, I will. That's my way of learning about things in the absence of watching a ton of minor league baseball. But hey, I'm going to pledge to you right now. I'm going to try to watch.
Okay.
I'm going to try to watch Owen Carey immediately. Like maybe right now. I'm going to pull up my tools to get video and at bats, and maybe we'll be able to do that. But
I got you, man.
thank you again for being here. I appreciate it. Listen to Peach State Prospects. Subscribe to that podcast. Subscribe to our podcast, Hammer Territory. Anywhere you find podcasts,
I agree.
follow Gaurav, and we'll see everybody next time.